Calls for Nigeria's restructuring and constitution reordering have intensified amidst tribal unrest that has characterized some parts of the country. This was the thrust of the Nation Builders Summit, a session led by Pastor Tunde Bakare, senior pastor of the Lateran Assembly and a former vice presidential candidate of the Congress for Progressive Change, the CPC. Pastor Bakare said that only restructuring done in good faith and honesty can bring stability to Nigeria. The clergy noted that there are many factors that are battling for the soul of the country, and it is expedient that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Pastor Bakare also extends his condolence to the family of the late Afenifere spokesperson, Yinka Odumakin.
I applauded this three-point agenda because the focal areas should have provided an opportunity for the president to address Nigeria's fundamental issues, given that they point to the foundational deficits in our polity, namely, number one, the deficit of an appropriate governmental structure that can guarantee the security of lives and property. Number two, the deficit of a moral compass and national value systems that can eliminate corruption from our national psyche. And number three, the deficit of an economic structure that can unleash the potential of Nigeria's diverse geo-economic zones. Just like we did yesterday, today's State of the Nation Live Brokers is also dedicated to Yinka Odumakin, a prince and a warrior who dedicated his entire life to the struggle for the emancipation of our people in general and for good governance in Nigeria in particular. Yinka, his darling wife, Jo, and myself, alongside with many compatriots under the banner of Save Nigeria Group, took civil protests to another level.
Now, for more on the state of the nation, we're joined by HASSAN SOWETO, National Youth Leader, Socialist Party of Nigeria. Good to have you, HASSAN.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to get your take on this expression, Nigeria on the brink of collapse. It tends to be one that is overused, if you don't mind my saying, and I want to understand, do you support that terminology when it comes to talking about Nigeria? Are we not in danger of crying wolf one too many times? And what does it really mean about when we speak of the state of our nation as in a state of on the brink of collapse?
I think essentially what that statement means is that Nigeria is a fragile state, which is constantly threatened by imminent disintegration and collapse. The fact that that collapse has not already occurred does not mean that that threat does not exist. Right from the creation of this country, threat of its violent disintegration have always been present. The only thing, my own opinion, that has managed to hold this country together is the periodic united struggle of the working people of this country, which helps to engender national cohesion. And that's why what you realize is that in all of the occasions when Nigeria appears to be on the brink of collapse, it's often a period that follows an era of struggle. If maybe that struggle has been defeated, then you now have, the emergence of ethnic and religious agitation coming up. If you look at examples in our history, during the anti-military struggle, the period following, the emergence of civil rule in 1999, we will realize that each period when ethnic and religious agitation came to the fore, the previous period was always a period of united struggle. And that's why this time around, it's not surprising that following the NSAS protest, which was violently repressed, we have seen another sign of disintegration with ethnic and religious agitation. So, in my opinion, that term is not overused. It best captures the fact that Nigeria is permanently under the threat of violent disintegration. And only the common struggle, the working people, can prevent a disaster from happening.
Well, the presidency has again shut down calls for cessation. Recently speaking, President Muhammadu Buhari says that we are not only stronger together, we are even better together. He was recounting the horrors of the civil war, and he says it's the duty of all of us to ensure that we have a united country. How reassuring are the words of the president and the presidency, because the vice president also spoke on the back of that? Do you think that the government understands what we have on our hands, and how do you think that they're handling it?
No, that statement from the presidency is the greatest insult of all to Nigerians, because it's a lie. The truth is that, given the past over 60 years or so of the existence of this country, there's nobody who can truthfully say that Nigeria is in good health. In whatever ways you look at it, whether economically, politically, in terms of security, or even in terms of how the cultural, the democratic rights of the different constituent parts are treated. And so, from that point of view, when a president now makes such a statement, it serves to belittle the genuine agitation of different segments of this country against perceived domination. How would the people of the Southeast, who see smarts, from the Civil War and the situation following that, how would they receive such a statement? How will people from the Middle Belt receive it, or from other parts of the country? Because what that statement shows is that the government is completely, at a loss or removed from the reality of average Nigerians. Truth is that many Nigerians feel that the promise of nationhood has not been met. And how this can be met is actually through the democratic and judicious distribution of the national wealth. The truth is that the way the national wealth is distributed today ensures that only a tiny percentage of the population sits atop over 80% of the wealth of this country. And the remaining majority of the population now have to struggle for a tiny percentage of the of struggle that is creating the crisis of ethno-religious dimension that we see in the country today. And that is why the only way forward, really, is to fight for a Nigeria under which the economy, will be democratically managed by the working people under a socialist program, for the purpose of ensuring that the economic injustice that is part of the material condition for ethnic and religious agitation is removed. The second stage after that will be to also ensure that the constituent part of this country, have their individual rights respected. And I think that the statement of the president does not in any way aspire for these kind of programs I've just enunciated. Rather, the statement appears to belittle the genuine feelings of domination, the genuine feelings of marginalization that different parts of the country is expressing. And from that point of view, it's an insult to many Nigerians who are passionately expressing these feelings.
Leader, what would you say are the best avenues, or is the best avenue, to pursue and reclaim lost time and lost ground? I just want to throw in whether you have any confidence in the electoral system, but you'll have to wait till we come back to get back to me on that question. Thank you for your patience. You're watching Newsday. Good to have you. And we're still back with HASSAN SOWETO, National Youth Leader, Socialist Party of Nigeria. Before we went on that break, HASSAN, I was just trying to feel your pulse on how you intend to, as a youth leader, reclaim lost time and territory in terms of getting us back on track to a more perfect Nigeria, and what your sense is of the electoral process as an avenue to achieving that?
The electoral process is very undemocratic, and it's crafted actually to allow the current inequality in the system, current marginalization in the system, to continue. And that's why, for instance, you see from the experience of the Socialist Party of Nigeria, a party that is trying to provide a program that can actually provide a way out, for Nigeria. We have seen over the past few months attempts by the INEC to even prevent such a party from being able to exist and present candidates in elections using a lot of specious arguments. And that is to show that even the electoral system itself is part of the crisis that this country has. And without, fighting for the rights of Nigerians, to be able to form a political party that represents their interests and be able to field candidates, through these parties in elections, it will only mean that secessionists and other people, other layers who wants to use violent agitations, to achieve their interest, will be the ones that will continue to thrive. And that is a warning to the Nigerian ruling elites. Because, like I was trying to say in the first part of my contribution, that it's not surprising that the current agitations from different parts of the country started just after the suppression of the NSAS protest. Anytime the state makes an attempt to suppress the free expression of the people, it's only leaving the door open for other forms of expression, including violent expression, including individual terrorism, including secession and violence. And that is why today you have all of this breaking out in different parts of the country. From yesterday to this morning in Imo State, there are the different developments. All of it shows just how fast the ship of the Nigerian state, is going towards a collapse. So I think the only way forward, really, is for the trade union movement, the labor movement, the youth movement, the civil society organizations to come together and bring up a program of struggle to begin to fight on the day-to-day interest of Nigerian people, regardless of where they come from within the country. And at the same time, also build a pan-Nigerian working class political alternative, which can present an alternative to the current quagmire that Nigeria is.
All right,
and as part of that process, a sovereign national conference is also very important because there's a need for Nigerians to be able to sit down and determine how they want in the country to run, how they want to fight for their own destiny and for their fate. That is very important.
Okay, some people will say another national conference, sovereign conference. Didn't we just have one in 2014? But let me ask you, you spoke about genuine feelings of marginalization that must not be toyed with. But how deep are these divisions in Nigeria? How deep would you say they are? Because I ask this because even within the groups that are seeking for this cessation, there are those who are divided and saying they're not speaking for us. We're not going to go with the cessation talks. That's not what we need. So really, how deep are these divisions? Are they just a call of a few? What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing to recognize is that the sentiments and aspirations of different parts, for their right to be respected, it's a sentiment that cannot be ignored. It exists in different parts of the country. What we do not have unanimity about at this stage is what will be the solution. As you have rightly said, a few people are calling for secession, but there's no way of knowing just how many people support that kind of slogan. We still continue to see, for instance, instances of Nigerians, regardless of which party they come from, coming together to fight for a common interest. I've mentioned the NSAS protest. The ongoing strike of resident doctors is another indication of the fact that alongside with the, agitations for secession, Nigerians, especially the working class, are still taking collective action to defend their interests. And that's the more reason why my call, for a sovereign national conference itself becomes important. Because while we do not agree that Nigeria's unity is innegotiable, at the same time, we cannot also agree that secession or separation should be forced by a tiny layer, on the rest of the population. People must have a democratic process of determining what they want to happen, what they want to do, where they want to go. And that is why sovereign national conference becomes important. And I use the word sovereign, I keep repeating it. What happened in 2014 was not a sovereign national conference. It was a national conference that was set up by the existing regime.
Okay.
That kind of conference is not a conference that can resolve anything.
Thank you. We're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Hassan.
Of the state.
It's clear that there's so many issues we need to unravel, but thank you for having started on it.